Hello, it's Ken Miller from the Hall of Fame podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about brokerages. Specifically, we're going to key in on the market of the digital brokerages and some of the things that are happening there around technology. We're going to talk a little bit about Convoy and their closing. We're going to talk about Uber Freight. And we're going to talk about the other brokerages in the market and how the market is going and what kind of recovery you guys look for. Is it following the same timeline as the trucking industries and so forth? So, with that said, let's kick it off. I remember clearly when Convoy entered the market, and I think a lot of brokerages that were doing your regular brokerage, so you have your trucking company, you have your customer, the customer sends you a load. You find a trucker to cover the load, and then you make a margin from that. Your normal brokerages make sense. Now, it makes sense that you can automate that. And even Stateway Logistics is working on some AI technology to automate that. But it makes sense to automate it. So when Convoy came along, I can tell you, me myself thought, wow, this is going to be good for the overall industry. But I think something we missed is this is a very old market force, and it's also a market force that's not really willing to change. I remember when we tried to roll out electronic bill of ladings, and we literally had to go to the customer and we said, hey, we'd hand you a stack of paper bills, so it looks similar like this, and we said, sign here, sign here, sign here. We give them a copy and we leave. Instead, we brought the guy a tablet. Says, hey, can you sign right here? He said, oh, I need a copy. I said, no problem. You give me a fax number or you give me email and I can send it right to you. No, I want to pay a copy right now. And we had a hard time just with that transition on bill of ladings. So when you think about the challenges from going to that to like an e-broker, you can understand it's not a matter whether technology was necessarily good. If the technology was fully developed, the transparency was great. The idea of a customer booking a load and able to see through the brokerage, the brokerage is going to charge X percentage, whatever that number is, and they're able to pick whichever carrier they're going to use based on history of loads, on-time percentage, and rate. But the customer is making that choice themselves is an amazing tool, an amazing way for people to pick their freight. But as you can see, in an industry as old as ours and not always the most open to change, it obviously didn't work. Now, I don't know the other reasons why Convoy closed down, and I'm not part of that, and I wasn't an investor, so I can't share that with you. I can just tell you I like the model, and I was surprised that it closed. Now, also a second one that's pretty big in what you call the digital market space was Uber Freight, and from the articles I read from Freightway Logistics, I don't know anyone there personally. They laid off quite a bit of digital people last year in the numbers of about 150. So it gets me concerned with what is next for digital brokerage. Now, even though some of these companies have had step backs and failures, I think long-term digital brokerage is the way to go. I think it first goes with swing doors and easy freight before it goes to more the complicated dray freight. Because when you look at a company, let's take a brokerage like Stateway Logistics. Our model is simple. Every rail and every port in North America, we have a dray truck ready to go. In every port, we also have a dray truck, we have warehousing, and we have transloading. So anyone that comes to us can have a total dray solution. Now, any part of that, and we're in the process of doing that, we can automate. That makes it simpler for the customer or the trucker. We want to automate. And we're deep down the road of being able to provide real-time content to our customer on where their drivers are based on the use of what basically we have now, which is a computer in your phone. So we're down the road of that. I think those things are going to improve. And I think the idea of the customer picking between our choice carriers. Now, it's different for us. We have about 2-3 carriers in each market, which I've used for over 15 years. But them able to pick what they want, I think, is something I'm open to. Having a static rate for brokerage is something I'm open to. We don't want to fall into the brokerages that have given brokers a bad name, that pays a bait and switch, that will say, okay, the load is yours for $800, and someone else come in at $7 and they switch the load. I think those things have given our industry a bad name. But I think transparency overall is going to be great for our industry, since Stateway is pushing towards transparency. And I think Convoy and Uber Freight was trying to show transparency. And there are many more out there doing this. I just wanted to highlight a few and to give you an idea of what I think is coming and I think is important. So obviously, in recap, the digital freight brokers have taken a step back. That's obvious with what you've seen with Convoy and some of the layoffs from Uber Freight. But I don't think that's necessarily the tone of what is to come. I think transparency in digital brokerages is the wave of the future, and ourselves as they would just plan to move in that direction. So hopefully this answers some of your questions about digital brokerages. Why are they closing? Some things of that nature. And just in closing, mention one thing I forgot. Remember, some of the large investors in Convoy was Bezos from Amazon and Mark Cuban. So there were definitely some smart people behind Convoy. It's not a matter of they didn't have the right people. There's a lot of reasons why things fail. Sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes people have to be willing to adapt to change, and I think those things come with time. So I'm looking forward for any feedback you guys have. And this is Hall of Fame Podcast with Ken Miller. Have a great day.